To the uninitiated, the black arts of Goethic magic are a thing of mystery, of bargains, pleas, contracts, and rituals where heretic priests, warlocks, and thaumaturges appeal to their dark patrons to wield supernatural powers. Goethic spells can grant immense power to interfere with God's creation, an act of rebellion to match the divine powers on earth. Some schools of thought say that it is these acts of torture, sacrifice, and torment which gives the magic its power, and certain demon philosophers of the Second Circle point to the tyrant god granting Satan permission to torment Job. The more nihilistic and fatalist schools of thought say there is no rebellion, and believe they are simply following God's plan laid out at the very beginning of creation. They have no say in the matter. It is their nature to persecute humanity and to eventually topple Yahweh, as the world he created becomes ever more sullied and tainted. In the strictest sense, Goethic magic is not directly usable by mere mortals. While the sorcerers and other fell creatures of the court are capable of tapping directly into the swell of Goethic power thanks to their supernatural origins, human heretics can only act as conduits of the power infernal. Instead, the heretic priests beseech their patron demons for supernatural intervention. In return, the lords of hell then demand their followers to kill for them, both on the battlefield and by dragging innocents to the desecrated altars erected in their name. One of the most insidious gifts the demon lords bestow upon their dark ministry is unnaturally long life. It is the most fervent wish of most heretic users of Goethic magic to extend their lifespans, so they can enjoy the fruits of luxury for longer than any faithful noble or rich merchant ever could. Addicted to the power and opulence of their status, they become ever more desperate to halt the march of time. Such heretic priests find that the rejuvenation they are granted wanes faster after each new sacrifice, driving them to commit ever-worsening atrocities in their quest to postpone death. In return for these diminishing extensions of their life, their patron will demand them to take greater risks to achieve their aims. The end is always the same. The devil will have his due, and the souls of their servants go to their fiery doom, replaced by new, ever more ambitious supplicants. Thus, many heretic warbands travel with an altar dedicated to their fell patrons. Of all the myriad obsidian tables, sacrificial stones, totems, and graven images, it is the blasphemous idols of the golden calf that are best known and most dreaded by the faithful. During major invasions, entire processions of war altars come forth with the heretic armies. The largest ones are towering statues, their fires tended by scores of heretic priests wielding knives and staffs. They are often mounted on tracked vehicles, standing on high daises so they can be brought to the front. There, the heretic priests can tap into the aura they emanate when victims are tossed into the fires within. These idols represent slaughter on an industrial scale, for many of the greatest of heretic weapons require the reality-warping corruption of Goethic magic to function. The dreaded heretic artillery uses shells encased in Goethic runes, which cause madness as well as physical destruction. Without the black touch of the winds of Goethic magic, the sentient barbed wire would simply fall into an inanimate state. Competition for the most extravagant and gaudy idols is fierce between their demon lords, and none more so than the rivalry between serpent heads of the court, reflecting the poisonous politicking of hell itself. Many lordly demons use the altars of the golden calf as a conduit between themselves and their followers. Mammon claims them solely for himself, as a symbol of his wealth and rapacity, but it is Moloch, the current serpent head of envy, that is the most keen of all the infernal nobles in urging his followers to bring ever more victims to die in the fires built beneath the golden calf. The roots of Moloch's envy run deep into the time before time. As a lordly seraphim, he yearned to create followers of his own, but this was the one thing he could never have. and when he learned that even the lowliest of humans was given the gift of life and a promise of creation, a boon denied to Moloch despite his exalted status, his jealousy turned into envy that slowly consumed and corrupted him. Aeons have passed since the first rebellion, yet nothing has changed. Despite his adoring throngs of worshippers, Moloch lacks the thing he craves the most, the power of creation. Missing the true ability to create life, Moloch's envy for creation knows no bounds. In his bitterness, he covets child sacrifices above all, as it denies these beloved fruits of creation from the followers of his hated father. Heretics in Moloch's service know that capturing entire families will reap them the greatest rewards when they bring the captives to the golden calf, belching smoke and radiating withering heat. It is Moloch's will that the parent see their offspring perish, their anguish being the only thing able to temporarily soothe the envy that gnaws at him day and night. Thus, Moloch is known as the devil that bathes in the blood of children and the tears of their mothers, to quell the envy that gnaws at his very being in his palace in the sixth circle of hell. He is lost in the labyrinth of his own jealousy and ego. To compensate, it is Moloch who creates the largest number of servants of the court, yoke fiends and sorcerers and hell knights using blackened shards of broken fallen angels to give them a semblance of life. But in his black heart, he knows they are but counterfeits, creatures that can only multiply by diminishing themselves, the charred remains of their divine origin weakening with every new generation. So Moloch's envy burns ever brighter, matching the sacrificial fires on the altars of the golden calf. Alrighty, yet more lore on heretic stuff this week, which is really cool because you all know I love heretics. We've got the golden calf, idolatry in general, specifically the golden calf war altar, because that is the absolutely stunning piece of art done by Chander Leave. I hope I get the surname correct there. I adore this piece of art. I first saw it a few weeks ago, and just the lighting in it is absolutely incredible. I just find it so atmospheric and insane to think about. Now, obviously, idolatry and the golden calf in particular get mentioned reasonably often in the Bible as regards to things you shouldn't do. I made up like a brief list of places where it gets mentioned. So Old Testament, Exodus 20:3-5. It's obviously one of the Ten Commandments. Leviticus 19:4, Deuteronomy 27:15, 1 Kings 18, Isaiah 44:9-20. And then in the New Testament, you've got Corinthians 10:14, 1 John 5:21, you got Colossians 3:5. They're all basically saying the same thing. Don't be beholden to anything. Do not put anything in place of your worship of the Lord, is as simple as it all breaks down to. It doesn't matter what that thing is. This is what I find really interesting. It doesn't matter if it's a physical object, if it's something imaginary, if it's a feeling, if it's an emotion, if it's a person, if it's a thing. It does not matter. They all result in the same thing, which is deemed to be a replacement for the worship that you should be giving to God and a breach of the covenant. You're God's creation. You're supposed to love God. That's just the way it is. Now, in the Quran, where I also had a little peek, there's this basically the same thing. It is mentioned all over the place as something that you're not supposed to do, and the reasons provided are largely the same. One of the big things, obviously, in Islam is this idea that you never associate really anything with God in that sense, because God is one and above all of creation, basically. So you don't associate anything with him in that sense. It's really interesting, I have to say. Now, the golden calf itself is a pretty famous one because that's what people have built when Moses comes back with the the tablets with the 10 Commandments on them. They've decided they're going to build a golden calf. So it makes a lot of sense that heretics would kind of hark back to that very first, well, not very first, I'm assuming it happened quite a lot before, but they'd harken back to that very biblical reference of, look, let's just go classic. Let's go old school. Let's have a golden calf. And then they use it for sacrifices. They roll it out at the front of the army. You can see in the art, it's on tracks. It's definitely got some kind of mechanism on the front. I do not know from here if that is for dragging or for chopping up bodies. I'm not sure. If you look at the art at the top, you'll notice that there appears to be the husks of people burning away inside. And then all around there's people staked, there's people hung. There's all kinds of grim shit going on in the art. So the art and the lore is obviously very cool. We get to learn more about Malak. Malak, his kind of lore offshoot, once again hammers home what I like about Hell in this setting. Hell is literally the worst of the worst. It is the most terrible instincts and desires and motivations of people all rolled up into one big bowl. One of the big areas of disconnect that I feel sometimes with people is that they think that hell should be some kind of super effective thing. But like, how effective is your local fucking DMV? Like, how effective is any bureaucracy? And hell needs to be seen as not just the ultimate bureaucracy, because they've got all manner of rules and layers of authority and all that kind of stuff. But you also need to imagine that the literal worst possible people to be in charge of anything and all end up in charge of things in hell. That's the whole point. People who really personify and exemplify the most terrible traits of absolutely everything end up being in charge. And that's exactly what happened with Malak. You have a guy who's so bitter that he can't create life, that he denies himself paradise, and then drags that bitterness into hell with him, where he's using up and degrading one of the most important resources that hell would have in any kind of a long scale, drawn out, protracted battle with, let's just say, I don't know, fucking heaven. So that, you know, their access to fallen angels is going to be somewhat of a limited supply in the grand scheme of things. And this guy is literally like burning through so many followers out of his sense of envy that he's weakening them with every new generation, is literally the words used. So I really like that about hell, basically. Hell is like this ever-expansive, eternal, messy, malleable thing. And it also sucks. And there is that chance that if humanity finds their, for lack of a better phrase, better angel, they will, long term, might actually be able to win. The irony being that long term is also hell's best chance of winning is not lost on me. And I've always loved that about the lore. Both of them need to kind of play the long game. And it's something that occasionally gets lost in the discourse on the internet about the game. So it's nice to see it once again hammered home here in the lore. But yeah, I think that's going to be it for this video. There's not too much to go into. Most of this stuff is like super self-explanatory. Don't worship things that aren't God. Definitely don't sacrifice people to things that aren't God. You're going to have a bad time of it in the grand scheme of things. I really like knowing a little more about Goetic magic too, knowing that this is not something that comes naturally or easily, if at all, to heretic priests and things like that, that they're simply invoking the magic of other more powerful beings is super interesting as well, and shows you just how limited and kind of garbagey and worthless the people who throw their lot in with hell really are. They never really gain anything. Not really. They're only ever granted these boons, these intercessions from their little demon masters on essentially a whim, and it can be taken away as such as well. The fact that all these pathetic dorks are crawling around the place desperate to not die and will do anything they can to make that happen and then just end up dead anyway. Hilarious. So yeah, that's it, folks. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're all having a great day, and all the best.